Radhe, in my previous talks I explained that as individuals we are seeking perfect happiness, also known as divine happiness, since time immemorial through our every endeavor. All of our actions are pointing in one direction only, and that is the direction of lasting, infinite happiness. Now, this happiness has a personified form known as God. So the question that naturally arises in our mind is, if God is who we are seeking and we have sought since eternity, all of our efforts have been an indirect search for God, who is perfect happiness personified, then how can we reach Him? So the obvious answer is through the knowledge of God. We need to attain the knowledge of God. And who other than God can bestow that knowledge upon us? So at the very beginning of this creation, God endowed us with that perfect divine knowledge in the form of the Vedas. The Vedas are eternal and they eternally reside within God. And that is why the Vedas also explain Nihishvasitamasya Vedaha, that the Vedas are the very breath of God. But in order for us to understand the knowledge within the Vedas, we need someone to guide us, someone to help us understand the depth of the knowledge that is infused within the scriptures. And such a personality is known as a saint. Someone who has experienced it in a practical form is known as a saint. Now, on this topic of spiritual knowledge or the knowledge of God, I would like to share thoughts on another aspect of divine love philosophy, and that is the master of the chariot. Who is the master and what is this chariot? Let us try to understand. So there's a very beautiful analogy in the Vedas depicted in these verses. Atmanagvam rathinan vidhi shariragvam rathamevatu buddhim tu sarathim vidhi manah pragraham cha. Vedas. Indriyani paranyahur vishayagvamaste shugocharan atmendriya manoyuktam bhokte tyahur manishinah. Vedas. So these verses explain our very plight and the harmonious relationship between our body, mind, and the self, which is known as the Atma. So these verses explain that we should know the self or the soul as the master of the chariot and the body as the chariot. Know the intellect as the charioteer and the mind as the bridle. The sense organs are the horses yoked together to pull it. So through these verses, Sri Krishna, Supreme Brahma Sri Krishna, explains that he has given this chariot in the form of this human body to us so that we can reach him. However, since time immemorial, we have been traveling, and yet we have not reached our destination. What is our destination? Perfect divine love. That is our destination. Even though God's abode is not far away. God instructs us to simply turn around. That is all we have to do, is simply turn around and set our course in the right direction. But the sad reality is that we do not wish to turn around. Instead, we accept one another to be our father, mother, son, wife, husband, etc., and seek our goal of perfect happiness through them. We are begging door to door for happiness from those who do not possess it, and they, in turn, beg us for the very same thing. All of us are beggars for the same happiness, and that happiness is God Himself. And yet, we try to fool and deceive each other. Hey, come to me. I will make you happy. I know how to make you happy. This is what everyone is saying. At times, we do realize there are times in our life, here and there, when we do realize that people and things of this world actually cannot give us true everlasting happiness, ever increasing happiness. No one in this world can deny that the happiness that they experience is not everlasting. It has a beginning, it has an end. But our realization, unfortunately, is temporary. It is short-lived, and within a moment of realizing that people around us in our life cannot really give us true everlasting happiness, our mind goes back into this world to embark on yet another search for happiness. This chariot is extremely precious. And when I say this chariot, just as a reminder, I'm referring to this human body. There are 8.4 million forms of life, and this human body is the only form that has been endowed with the extreme privilege of reaching its ultimate destination. So it is extremely precious, and we must realize how fortunate we are. This human body is the only vehicle in a fleet of 8.4 million that is capable of taking us to our destination. Ultimately, we have to submit or surrender to God, reach His abode and meet Him. And until we do so, we will never be able to rest. So the question is, what are we to do? First, we must govern the mind and the senses with the intellect according to the instructions of a God-realized saint. Now here I would like to clarify that the intellect is the discriminating aspect of the mind, and the mind is the desiring aspect of the mind. So in other words, the mind is only one, but it has two facets, the intellect and the mind. So the intellect, it discriminates, and the mind desires. So we have to govern the mind on the instructions or on the power of the intellect. And by doing so, we can change the direction of our running. If you simply reverse your course, you will see that God is standing right behind you. It is an eternal fact, we all do this, except our mother, father, husband, as being ours life after life. And so, out of ignorance, we have sought our goal of divine bliss through them. But when we receive proper authentic divine knowledge, as I mentioned, through a divine personality, then we begin to contemplate changing our course and begin to understand the true nature of our relationship with God. So when we fully surrender, or when we rather join our intellect to a God-realized saint and implicitly follow his instructions, then we can govern the whimsy of our mind, of our desirous mind, with the intellect, and be able to control our senses. And then we can direct, or rather redirect, the chariot in the form of this human body to take us to our destination, our ultimate destination of eternal welfare. So it is our mind that has led us astray in this world. And now we have to use our intellect, or the faculty of knowledge, which is the power of discrimination that we all have, and to be able to ride this chariot to our ultimate destination. And that destination is God. So I will leave you with these thoughts. श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय, श्रीमद् युगल सरकार की जय, प्यारी प्यारी अम्मा की जय, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे।